My name is Matt.
My name is Abigail.
And this is a Q&A.
Yes. Welcome to the
Polyglot
last day of Vedf. We did it. We posted a video every single day in a month.
Who would have thunk it?
Not me.
You didn't.
So to wrap it up, we're going to do a Q&A. We posted one of these like a year ago in honor of 1,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're almost at 8,000, which is crazy. We decided we'd answer more questions and give you another opportunity to get to know us, considering 7,000 new people have found their way to this channel. We asked these on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so if you're not following us on there and you feel sad that you missed an opportunity to ask us a question, go follow us.
Good promo.
Yeah, thank you.
Why do you think the language community is so strong despite all of the things arising with YouTube in general? And this was a question from about a month ago, but it's still relevant.
I think there's like a lot of reasons. Like I think the first reason is just like I think anything that's like kind of like a niche on YouTube
Will
sort of
survive,
survives like YouTube's issues because like it's not just like I feel like on my personal channel, I'm just, like, shouting into the void. Like, I just, like, send things off. I'm like, I said these things. Please watch it, maybe. And, like, there's nothing that would, like, draw you to watch my videos, I guess, other than liking me, which, I don't know. It seems strange, but
it's like
people
a cult of
can
personality,
find
kind of.
Polyglot progress and, like, other things like that because they like language things. So it's, like, kind of easier to sort of be sustaining because we kind of, like, self-sustain almost. Like, I watched Polyglots and I was like, I should make a channel. And then now there are people who are like, I made a channel because of you. And I end up watching them. So it's like just
it's like
this
a self-sustaining cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree with like the niche community thing. Like just anything that's like its own little bubble is gonna survive, and like other bubbles are popping because they're just more volatile. But like it's a pretty good, just a positive community, you know. We're not looking to get each other. I think is a big
I think
thing.
that's the other thing is I think even though like I've been in other like niche communities too, and I feel like the language learning community is like a bit nicer overall.
Everybody's like actual people, which is nice. You know?
I think it's because just, like, the nature of it, like, we're learning languages to communicate with people, so naturally, like, a platform that is about communicating is gonna, like, work well.
It kind of brings it all back together.
Languages, yeah. Opinions on language isolates. Would you ever like to study languages like Hungarian or Albanian?
Yeah.
Do you think they're too difficult, or are you simply uninterested?
Okay, no. I don't know why this person thinks we're uninterested. Tried to study Hungarian before, and I talk about Basque a lot, and Hungarian, and then I did Finnish for like a month. Dude, I like isolates. What? I think isolates give a language a lot of identity. I don't think they're too difficult. Like, Korean's a language isolate. So many people learn that. That's my answer.
I want to learn Finnish at some point, so
really?
It's on
That's a thing?
my list. Yeah, it's been on my language list, Matt,
what?
if you paid attention. But, yeah, I'm interested, and I feel like almost some of the language isolates, like, being an isolate doesn't make it harder to learn, necessarily. Like, also, you said Korean. Korean's on my list, too. Like, so I have a bunch of isolates, actually, on my list that I want to learn, and honestly, I feel like it's going to be less hard for me to learn those than it is for me to learn Bulgarian, just because there's resources. There's lots of Korean resources out there. So just because it's an isolate doesn't mean it's going to make it difficult for me to study, per se. I won't go in with knowledge from other language families, but also me going into, like, another language family that I haven't studied before would also be difficult for that same reason.
Also, Hungarian had a lot of loan words from other Indo-European languages, even though it's not one. I think Benny Lewis made a list of like all the loan words he found in Hungarian so that he would have a wider vocabulary coming from English. Do you like more Duolingo or Memrise?
I think they're two very different platforms. Memrise, I guess, for me.
I just feel like Memrise gives you more, even though I'm not really a fan of either. I just like don't really gravitate towards them, and I don't know why. I guess because I just prefer more like learning in context, and I feel like Duolingo gives you a little more context than Memrise, because Memrise just gives you a word and is like, run with it.
Yeah, I think I prefer Memrise just on a personal level, but at the same time, like, I think they're for two different things. Like, obviously, I wouldn't learn grammar through Memrise, but I would be able to learn, like, a new like verb tense through Duolingo. That's just not something you do on Memrise. It's more of like a vocabulary thing. But I'm a little bit annoyed with the way that Duolingo interface has been moving on the app and stuff. So I'd say in general I'm gravitating more towards Memrise as like a platform in general. I also just like feel like I get so much out of Memrise. But then there's also the issue of like Memrise is made by just random people and Duolingo is more of like a set course, which has its benefits of like there's other languages Duolingo doesn't have, but also sometimes the courses on Memrise are, like, not well done at all. Like, Duolingo, you know what you're getting when you go to it, but, like, Memrise, it could be literally anything. Have you ever been able to speak Esperanto to another person that speaks Esperanto, not like each other?
Yes.
Yeah, the Polyglot conference is a great place to speak Esperanto to people.
The first time I spoke Esperanto to someone was at the Polyglot conference, and that was also the first time I went from speaking German to Esperanto, which, like, switching from one language to another was a really big, like, moment for me.
And similarly, do we have any tips for learning Esperanto? I want to learn it, but every time I try, I find it difficult to remember vocabulary. This doesn't happen to me with French or Spanish.
Esperanto's vocabulary is something that, like, you can just build yourself once you know, like, I think suffixes are a big thing, affixes, learning all of those, and, like, I made, like, charts of them so I would know, like, you add a U and it, like, signifies a person.
I had cute charts too.
I found mine the other week and it was nice.
I'll also say the Duolingo course for Esperanto is actually great for, like,
I actually
learning
really like
vocabulary.
that.
Abigail, do you dye your hair yourself? If so, what brand do you use? I love your colorful hair. Thank you. I'm every hairdresser's worst nightmare. I bleach, color, and cut my own hair. I use different brands depending on, like, the color that I'm going for, and also just to, like, try different things out. Overall, I just look for whatever's the most conditioning, because since I bleach my hair, like, I don't want it to be damaged. And my hair is actually very healthy considering I've been bleaching and dyeing it for, like, 3 or 4 years now. Usually use Manic Panic, which for some people washes out really fast, but for me usually sticks for a while. Recently I have not wanted to spend money on hair dye, so I've been taking the, like, little bits at the bottom of the pots that I already have and mixing it together and then putting it on my hair. I also like ion a bit. That's what I did for all my, like, silver.
From Sarah on Facebook, are you planning to teach languages in the future? I don't know. I kinda am a little unsure of where I want to be in the future in terms of a career, but I'm definitely leaning more towards, like, language and literature, because, like, I think those two go really well together for me, but I don't think I want to be a typical language teacher. Like, I'd much rather teach language through literature, if anything. So will it be a foreign language or English, but with a lot of hints of foreign language? Like, I don't know. I definitely want to teach literature, though. That's something I think I've realized lately, is that, like, that's what I'm really passionate about, you know? And then, like, tutoring I'll definitely do all the time.
Yeah.
Because, like,
yeah.
I do that already.
I don't know if I necessarily want to teach at any point in time.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, a casual teaching, which is more like tutoring, except I have to structure it more. But overall, like, I think I'd be more, like, my max of, like, teaching would be, like, professional tutoring on italki kind of level, where, like, they'll prepare like slides and, like, homework and stuff, but, like, not working for a school. I don't think I could ever see myself as a teacher of any sort, honestly. No. I'm curious, what language do you speak to each other most of the time?
English.
English,
Sadly.
actually. I think we've recently been using others a little bit more. We'll also use other languages when we're talking about people and we don't want them to know. That's the one time, like, I remember this weekend even, you had to tell me something and you're like, I'm gonna speak to you in French.
Yeah.
And he, like, gave me, like, all this dirt, like, in French, and I was like... So we occasionally will use other languages, especially when we don't want people to, like, speak English to us. But other than that, a lot of the time it's English, just because a lot of the time I feel like we spend together is, like, we're really exhausted after a whole day of, like, classes and school and stuff, and so it's just kind of what our brain defaults to, being, like, English, and it's English with a lot of mistakes I'll put out there. Like, I feel like when we talk, it's so obvious how English deteriorates as you learn other languages. I think we're trying now to speak to each other in other languages and just make our lives, like, more multilingual, just because I think we fall back on English. Like, I bought Matt Settlers of Catan in German for his birthday, and so we're trying to find, like, books in other languages and games in other languages and just kind of living our lives in other languages a little bit more. In the same question, as you're both studying French, have you been focusing on the dialect from France or from other countries like Canada?
I don't know. I think we kind of just take on whatever's around us, because we have a friend who speaks very Canadian French, and then we have what people are learning in school, and then I just have my French that hasn't improved since high school. So I was learning French I think, or Parisian French. And then, I don't know about you.
I speak a very weird French because of how long I spent in the education system learning French. We were learning mainly, like, French of France, but then we were sent to Canada, like, 3 months into learning, so that definitely had a pretty big effect on my accent. Like, I do say things with like a certain Quebecois kind of tone just because it was how I learned them. That was like some of my first exposure to speaking and using the language. So some of the words that I learned, I'm recently now discovering are not French of France. They're like Quebecois things that I say. I speak kind of a mix of French of France and Quebecois, honestly, and personally I like the sound of French of France a little bit more, so that's kind of where I lean, but I can't say that the Quebecois French hasn't like infiltrated my French a bit. Is there a language you would never consider learning, or are all languages equally interesting to you? I actually kind of answered this in the guilty language learner tag already.
Oh, did you?
I mean, to put it short, I'm interested in everything. I'm more interested in learning something. So like every language interests me, but there's languages I'm interested in learning and languages I'm not as interested in learning because I know that I can't learn every language.
Yeah, I think that's a thing where like I have this anxiety when it comes to books, and I'm like, I want to read every book, you know, but I know like I can't do all of that now. It's the same thing with languages where I'm like, I love languages, I want to be able to like participate in all of them, but you just can't. You have to dedicate your time to like these select few now and then those at another time. That's a problem I've been struggling with for a long time, is like where to put my attention now because I want to do everything. And so I'm inherently interested in like language as a concept and vehicle for emotion and communication, which I just think is so powerful. I think it's the greatest thing like humans have ever done. Language in any form just inherently interests me, but what languages am I going to be like diving into? Whatever I'm like pushed towards, I think, you know? I think a lot of it is gravity towards language, like, because as much as I say like, oh, I want to learn Latin now, let's do this, I totally like will go back towards whatever my life is leaning towards, you know? I think a lot of it has to just do with where I'm going, what I want intrinsically.
Yeah, a bit of it also for me depends on like where my life is going, like even the order I study languages. I wasn't actually even planning on studying Spanish next, but it just happened that I got this opportunity to study Italian, which was pretty high on my list, and Spanish, and I was like, yeah, this is a good time to do that. And so it just happened, and like similarly, like things will come up where I'll be like not expecting to go somewhere, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go here, I should focus on the like local language and stuff. So
and also just I feel like attitudes about languages change, so even if like someone really thinks Chinese is hard, or like me who just had some weird disposition towards romance languages.
You who hated Spanish and Italian?
I now like am kind of in love with Spanish and Italian, and just like I find them so fun for me, and like it's very puzzle-like, and I'm able to like find a lot of fun in that, in the challenge of it, and like they get me more interested in Latin and things like that. I think being open to change in language is fine, and interests change, and that's alright. Do you have a languages wish list with like all the languages you'd like to learn in your life? And if you have one, mind to share it with us? I've got one, and it's an ever-expanding one. You can get yours out. I don't have mine on me.
Mine is also ever-expanding, so like this isn't necessarily like set in stone, but here it is right now. So of things that I've like kind of studied, we've got Bulgarian, Esperanto, French, German, and then I guess also Spanish and Italian. And then on here also Arabic, ASL, Brazilian Portuguese, Hindi, Haitian Creole, Icelandic, Italian, which I already said actually, Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, Polish, Swedish, Urdu. That's my list at the moment. Honestly, it probably is gonna expand and change. Like I also already know I would like to learn a Bantu language. Don't have one on here. Just because I'm not sure which. I also have other languages that I think of in my head, and I'm like, I really want to learn this, but it hasn't been added to my like official list yet. Like Danish will probably get added at some point. There's some other things too, but that's my list at the moment. Also Mandarin, I'm not sure if I actually want to go with Mandarin. I might go with Cantonese.
Really?
I'm not totally
interesting.
Sure. I know I want to learn a Chinese, and I had originally put Mandarin because I had studied it in middle school and then like lost everything, so I was like, I want to go back to that. But I guess like as my life has moved on, I've been like, I'm open to different Chinese instead, so I'm not totally sure if that'll stay Mandarin.
I don't have a list on me because like that, it's always changing, and I feel like whatever I said 2 years ago has changed immensely now.
Where do you want to travel next time as a dream destination? I guess my like travel to next and my dream destination are two different things.
Yeah.
The place I want to visit the most is honestly Japan, but it's like super expensive to do that from the US. So that's like a thing that I'm putting off because I've also kind of decided that I don't want to go to Japan until I speak Japanese, at least like to a pretty good level to be able to communicate and stuff. And also like I'd like to go with enough money that I don't have to like worry about what I'm spending it on. While I'm happy to travel other places on a budget, I kind of want to do Japan when I feel financially able to like kind of do whatever I want there. So that's like being pushed off, but that is like my ultimate travel goal.
As for me, I really don't know. I really want to get to some like less touristy destinations.
So do I.
I don't really know what that would mean, but like I've just kind of been really wanting to go to more like, I don't know if I necessarily mean rural, but just where there are less Americans with cameras and selfies happening. You know, I'd really appreciate that right around now. I may be going to Norway this summer, but I also might be working, so I don't know what's happening. Do you play any instruments?
That's a good question. Not at the moment, really. I played violin and alto saxophone in elementary school, and of course the recorder, because what American didn't play the recorder?
I didn't.
Did you actually not play the recorder?
No. I played the viola and the tenor sax in elementary school.
Okay, wait, so we had the same things.
I was slightly
I played
different.
the saxophone in middle school too, actually, and I was in choir.
And I, like languages, I dabble in instruments. I've dabbled in piano, like to minimal, like I put my foot in the water. And then
I actually didn't know that.
And then with guitar, I always just pick it up when I'm home and then just mess around.
But you can play the guitar. Like, you can read songs and, like, play them and stuff.
I can read tablatures, not sheet music.
Yeah, but you still know the tabs and stuff. I tried to learn to play the guitar. I took guitar lessons for a little while before my guitar teacher quit. And then I tried to self-teach myself. And then I also like bought a ukulele and tried to learn that for a while. But I could never really honestly play either of them, I don't think. Like, I never really got past initial like chord learning and like trying to fumble through some songs, but like not really being able to do it. I'd like to go back and learn both of those like for real, because I think I could do that better now, because A, I'm older, and B, I feel like I really want to try learning instruments after figuring out how to learn languages on my own, because throughout my childhood I both dabbled in learning instruments and dabbled in learning languages, and I failed at both. And so I feel like now that I have figured out how to not fail at languages, my next step is to apply that to not fail at instruments.
That's really interesting.
I'm planning to buy a banjo and learn that over the summer. Yeah. But I also would like to go back and like relearn guitar and
I'm excited for the banjo.
Current levels in all the languages we've studied.
Can we just
We'll put that in the description.
Okay.
And then what language do you think you'll learn next?
Old Norse.
I think Japanese might be my next language.
That was a slightly joke answer. I don't know.
How many languages do you want to be able to speak at a B level in around 5 years?
I want to be able to speak all the languages I speak now, but at a higher proficiency. To the point where like I learn things and I don't necessarily lose them right away. Like I just really need to like strengthen what I've got right now. So I don't know if I'm really going to be looking to expand what I have for a little while, but rather strengthen what I have.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to say how many, because I think some of the languages I'd like to get to a higher level that I already speak. Some of those are already at a B and I want to get them past that. Some of them aren't at a B and I want to get them to a B, and then there's other ones that I'll add on. But I think like what I came to when I was thinking about this for the last video was I'm currently studying / speak English, and that puts me at like 7 languages I think right now.
Yeah, 7 or 8.
And so not necessarily all of those need to be at a B. Like, I really don't care what happens to my Esperanto.
Yeah,
sorry,
we've talked about
Esperanto. So like that can go to like an A too, and it's fine. I guess like adding on to those, like I think like 10 to 15 is what I'd like to speak at a B in 5 years. Just because I feel like that's where I'm at after like a few years of study, and I feel like I'll be able to get those to a B. And then adding some on, like 10 is only adding 3 new languages, really. And so I feel like 5 years is a good chunk of time there. I'll also be out of school for a lot of that.
True, I won't be, so I guess that's why I'm thinking about it.
I think I'll have spent some more time, hopefully, with things. And hopefully I'll also have gotten more chances to, like, travel and use languages. I think that's one of those, much like languages, where, like, plans change. So maybe I'll end up only speaking, like, 6 at that level, and that's not necessarily because I failed, but I don't know how many I want to speak, necessarily. But I think 10 to 15 is a good number. Are you thinking of using foreign languages in a career or keeping your language hobby separate? And is your school schedule as busy this term as it was in the fall?
Mine's busier. Kind of less busy, but you've got other things.
I'm taking 2 less credits, but then I'm taking Spanish and Italian lessons on the side, and I'm making 2 thesis projects.
Yeah, so it's a bit
like
stressy.
the same, I guess.
Yeah.
I have more open days. Like I have Tuesdays off and most of Wednesday is off for me, which is nice. I have time to like do my thesis projects and things, but I also have classes for 12 hours straight with a 30-minute lunch break on Thursdays.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I'd say it's like equally busy, I suppose. It's busy in a different way, I guess, is the best way to put it.
As for me, in terms of just languages in my career, I think it is going to be a bit more of a hobby thing, but it's always going to inform my career in what I mean, because language is inseparable from literature for me, and just languages inform how I use my English so much, and just I'm always, like, I love poetry that incorporates other languages. You know, I only talked about this recently, but like, is translation going to be a thing I go into? I don't know, it's possible. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. I don't even have a good sense of where I'm going to be in my career, but you know, I definitely want to incorporate English literature, and I think in that, I'm definitely going to be having a lot of foreign language influence, no matter where I am.
We talked about this in the podcast with Ophelia. My kind of like life plans is to dabble in lots of different careers, but not necessarily dabble, just have like 8 side hustles that equate to one steady career. And so some of that will be like foreign languages. Like, I'd love to do things like Polyglot Progress's level of like language teaching. Like I said, I don't want to do like formal language teaching, but making videos that help people either learn languages or about specific languages, like my French grammar videos, that sort of thing, I enjoy. And I'm definitely going to use foreign languages in my like main career of like filmmaking, because I'd love to make films in other places and work with crews where I'd have to speak another language in order to communicate them. Like if I'm on like a Spanish speaking set and I have to speak Spanish, or I'm on like a crew in France and I have to speak French and that sort of thing. And then also just in my own films that I write, like using other languages to kind of convey where people are from and like where we are and that sort of thing, and give characters deeper personalities, because I feel like everything is so like surface level with language and film.
I know.
Also, just languages as a hobby. I think it's hard to have a career that doesn't involve languages if you speak other languages, because you'll always have like co-workers that might use other languages and things. And then lastly, the dreaded question. What is your definition of fluent and what is your definition of polyglot?
I don't use the word fluent myself. I use it solely when other people don't share the same distaste for the word as I do, I think. Like, I'm fluent in English, and I can only have fluency in English, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. Because, you know, I've had it since birth, and it's a thing that I'm conditioned to think in. As far as being fluent in a foreign language, I don't know where I'd say I draw the line. I don't think I draw it with any necessarily like a CEFR level, but I think it's more so for me a confidence, a capability, and like I really don't think it's a self-prescribing thing. I think other people need to say it about you, but also I just don't think other people have the same idea as I do about it. I think in the language community it's kind of a shared thing that like fluency isn't really attainable by an average path, you know? I think it's like kind of an extraordinary thing. In a sense, I think, you know, if I want fluency in German, I can get it, but I've also been learning German for 8 years.
No, it's just interesting because you have a very different definition of fluent than I do.
Well, because I don't know. I don't think I'm fluent in anything other than English. Because, like, my German breaks and wears down over time, and then it needs repair. So, like, I don't think that's fluent if I don't have it all the time, you know?
If you were to live in Germany for, like, 3 years and you didn't speak any English, would your English not deteriorate?
My English would totally deteriorate, but I think just that's built into my brain so much where recovering that is going to happen so much quicker than the recovering of my German. But I do think having German been in my experience for so long, like that dusting off of it comes back a lot quicker once you're in that environment. Like, I think fluency is a thing attached to environment a lot of the time, which I know is debatable, and like I could be totally wrong. Questions like this give me a lot of anxiety.
My definition of fluent, which is completely different.
I could negate mine and agree with yours.
My definition of fluency is just like fluidity in speaking, I guess.
Okay.
And being able to form cohesive things without like a ton of pauses. Like, even I take pauses in English, so some pauses are okay, but like being able to speak a cohesive, fluid sentence. And so I think that there's fluency that you can achieve at any level. So you can be like A1 and fluent.
Really?
Like a fluent A1, or you can be like a fluent A2 or a fluent C2 or something. You can also be like a C2 that's not fluent because you have to pause constantly to think of things.
That's really interesting.
But you could have an intellectual
Oh,
discussion.
wow.
Like, I think
like
of fluency as being more just like your, like you said, like a level of confidence and like cohesiveness and things, and like comprehensibility in a language. Then, I mean, I will use fluent sometimes when I talk to other people, and I use that to more so mean like a B2 plus, I guess, just because I think a lot of people think of fluency as being like, do you like speak a language? So I just go with like a upper intermediate to advanced level, being like fluent in terms of that. But I think a lot of people get the wrong impression. They're like, oh, you're fluent in this language, like you speak all those things, and you could be an A1, you could have just told them the weather. But if you say it in a really like quick and fluid motion, people are like, oh, you're fluent. But if you can also be a C2 and be able to have philosophical debates, but you take so many pauses and you rack your brain so much that people are like, oh, but you're not fluent. So I think of fluent more so as like how you sound and you present what you can say. And so I think fluency is like attainable then in every language at every level.
Interesting.
I also feel like your view is a little cynical. Like, I think anyone could achieve a C2 in a language. Like, I think you can get to near native level, or sometimes even better than native if you've studied grammar more than a native maybe has. In any language, I think you're very cynical about, like, no one will ever be that great at a language. But
the reason I do it is because I'm self-deprecating about my language level. I don't do it to be cynical. I do it because I don't think I will ever be at the level of a native speaker, which is where I put fluency.
But is that just your lack of study?
It could be. I don't know.
Okay, and then what's your definition of polyglot?
4 to 5 languages or more with a competency.
I say polyglot is like 4 or more. I don't know where I stand on where hyper-polyglot begins. I want to say like more than 10 or 11, but at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's more than 15. I think I need more time thinking about that one to determine where I feel hyper-polyglot is, but... And then there's like things that people throw in that are like hyper, super, ultra polyglot, or like all these other ones, and I don't think those exist at all. I think hyper-polyglot is the last cutoff, and I don't know where I put that one yet. But I think the thing is I don't actually know if I'm considered a polyglot based on like, I do speak more than 4 languages, but do I speak them all at the level
that is required of a polyglot?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand yet. I want to say it's like B1, B2 or higher. But also, like, some people are going to say it's C2. I think I just always look at it as being like, if you speak it 4 or more languages at a B range or higher, you're a polyglot. Which I guess, yes, I do count as. But at the same time, I like to think of myself, I posted this in the Discord, I think of myself as like a baby polyglot, where like, I speak a bunch of languages, but I speak them all at a low level, and I know that. Like, I don't claim to be like a native speaker in all of the languages I speak. Like, I'm a very low level in nearly everything I've studied, other than like English, French, and somewhat German. My German's still pretty low, but I mean, it's higher, and I'd like to get it to the advanced level, but I think of myself as like a little baby polyglot, or like a tiny little tree sapling polyglot that's like growing. So like, I am a polyglot, but I'm like still becoming the full-fledged polyglot. That's why we're polyglot progress.
Honestly, yeah. No, totally.
Those are all of the questions. If we didn't answer your question, we're really sorry, but we did get a ton of questions. I definitely wasn't expecting that many, but I think we got close to 100 questions this time.
Oh my gosh.
So unfortunately, we can't answer everything, and I'm sure this video was long enough as it is.
True.
And then also, that ends Vedf.
That's it. Oh my god.
We don't have a schedule yet, and whatever it is, it's definitely going to be scaling much back from the number of videos we've been posting recently, but we hope you enjoyed it.
Can you believe we did 28 videos?
I know.
In a month? What the heck?
So now that we don't have anything, if you want to see more videos from us, now would be a great time to subscribe, and you can even hit the bell down below to be notified. I don't think I've ever said that before. To be notified when we post a video.
True.
We also just want to thank everyone that's become a patron this month.
Yeah,
we got
gotten
so many new patrons, and it means so much to us, and it really does
appreciate it.
Help us out with making content. So we'll see you when we come back.
Yeah.
And until then, you can go back and catch up on 27 other videos if you missed any of them.
And make sure that you remember that practice makes progress. My hand looks so much bigger than yours. There we go.
Someone commented on my study with me and said, are those pens huge or are your hands small?
I saw that.
It's my hands. They're the size of a 12-year-old's.